Bitcoin Liberty Live, episode 73. We are back as we are every week, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Pacific. Massive breaking news. We have massive breaking news. I just got an international call. We have an undisclosed guest joining us here, which we will disclose shortly once he arrives.
Is it Daniel?
Oh, you gave away my nothing burger. Yes, Daniel's going to join us again today. So anyway, but I was going to call it massive breaking news. Anyway, funny, so much drama on Twitter, on X, and the Bitcoin discussion. TikTok next block for me. The price went down, and I used to feel more like, oh, darn it, I just want numbers to go up and validate my belief in the ultimate destination for all of us and what Bitcoin will do in the world. And nowadays, it's almost like, it's an opportunity to catch up and stack better, stack more, because I still have complete understanding and faith, if you call it that, in the math. I believe in the math. So it's an opportunity with price drops like this to stack. So I don't feel bad about price drops because I've just been through quite a few. Robin, you've been in for years. And when we wrote it down back in 2021 or so, and it had hit, up in the 60s, or maybe it touched 70, and then it started to slide and slide and slide and slide and slide. And when you've ridden that down for a while, and stuck to it, to your principles, and reaffirmed why you're in this, as it came back and comes back and steadily goes up, and you've zoomed out and you've had that opportunity to just be like, this isn't my first rodeo. I feel fine. I feel all right about the price. And that's in fiat. So, hey, one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. So,
and there's this interesting thing that I fully believe in is, if you are extremely worried about Bitcoin when it goes down, you haven't fully grasped it. And it's almost like and I compare this with a stupid example. If you have a sock that you need and it's your favorite sock and it's the sock that you always wear, and you see it on sale, instead of like $8 a bag, it costs like $7 a bag. You're not going ahead and selling your socks that you already have.
Sure.
You're going ahead and like, oh, I need that sock anyways all my life. I will buy more of that sock. So I have some. And in the same way as like with Bitcoin, if you understood Bitcoin and you know what Bitcoin represents and you know what Bitcoin is, you're not going to sell it just because it goes down in price. If it goes down in price, it just means the great thing that I love just got cheaper, and I get more of it for less fiat. And I was like, that's the best thing you can possibly have. So I don't know. If you freak out about a dip, you probably haven't really grasped what Bitcoin is.
Yeah, I think if you're feeling FUD over fiat prices, or you've felt that before, it's just time to stop and reflect on, what do you understand about Bitcoin? Why are you still in Bitcoin? And if you're going to hodl, why are you hodling? Because that's really the important question. Is not, I want to get rich, I want to retire, I want to get there quickly, I want to win the race. It's deeper than that. It's really so much deeper than that. And for me, it gets down to just the ethics of money and the fiat money we have, the whole system we have. Ultimately, I want that system to, at best, get fixed, but I wouldn't be against it. Certain failures occurring in that space if there's a better money to replace it. So I'm just that crazy about it.
And I'm really stumbled by that, because the sentiment is super low. It feels like we're in a long-winded bear market. We've been way far off the all-time high, like since 3 years. It's only going down. when you look at the data, it's like we are up 67% the last 12 months, a CAGR of 67%. Like you can calculate with that CAGR where we are in like 5 years and 10 years, like the numbers will blow you out of the waters. The last 5 years, we are up 937%. Like it's a freaking awesome asset. And people are doomsaying of like, oh, it's dipping. Like, I don't, like it's so bad. Like it's gonna just go to zero. I'm like, yeah, study more, look at one more podcast, read more, one more book. I don't know.
Yep. It can be a time to stop and reflect and learn.
Good morning, Johnny.
Yeah, well, I mean, like what? Yeah, a year ago, all last summer, we were just riding the whole 58K gang thing. It's like 58K, 58K. And then for a while there last winter, so it was like 98K and kind of riding 98K. And if we're going to ride, if 110 sounds like it's a fall, yeah, you got to zoom out.
I want to get back to 57K gang. I tried to say good morning. I think my mic was muted. Good morning, Johnny. Good to see you, sir. Oh, you did.
Good morning, Johnny. Yeah. You zoom out. Sailors mentioned, hey, it comes with volatility, but if you understand the first principles of it all, like, we're fine. It's doing what it does.
What do you guys think of this idea? Because like when I hear people nowadays and they go like, we want sound money. I'm just like, it always makes me cringe now, dude, because I go like, and I posted this on Twitter the other day. I said, people who don't understand money want better money. People who do understand money want Bitcoin. And then I said few, right? But like I hear whether it's the monetary maxi quote unquote people or the number go up people or the Michael Saylor people. I actually like Saylor's view because he doesn't talk about sound money. He talks about pristine property. And I go, yeah, that's the correct assessment, I think. But, nowadays, like, because I come from this idea that says money is a tool of oppression. It's not like, it's nothing you can gain freedom through because it's by design there to oppress you. So when I hear someone go, I want sound money, you go, you want a sound tool of oppression? What are you talking about? So it's always a little confusing. I'm curious what you guys think of that idea.
Well, there's a contingent of Bitcoin folks.
58K gang. Yeah, 58K
gang. It wasn't that
bro.
long ago. I know. I remember the whole 58K months we went through. And so, and the volatility was a little less, but it wasn't like, when moon and, moon is still in the horizon at some point. There are things that are going to trigger moons. There's a contingent of Bitcoiners that definitely are like Dorsey, I think, was definitely like, this has to be a medium of exchange. This needs to be functional as a medium of exchange. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be great if it can be.
Dorsey is a Fed.
So feds aside, there may be feds everywhere. We're wondering who all is feds these days.
And Bitcoin is already a medium of exchange. Like,
yeah,
I don't get that because people always tell me in the comments like, oh, Bitcoin is not money. Bitcoin is never like a medium of exchange. Like I get paid in Bitcoin. Like I pay my freelancers in Bitcoin. I use it as a medium of exchange. Like every single week.
Yeah,
like it is there. Like maybe not for you, but for me it is.
Yeah. Right.
and it's also an interesting point from Daniel because like, I mean, I also see like there's a lot of like, we talk about the same thing, but we gave it different names. So like we if someone talks about pristine of a pristine asset, he might talk about the same thing as someone calls it sound money. Right. So I feel like sometimes it's like just like a different word for the same thing. But yeah, I just wanted to shout it out because it really annoys me when people say it will never be money. I'm like, I use it as money. Yeah. Blueberries can be money. Like if you pay someone in blueberries and you get paid in blueberries, like then this is your money. But for me, it's like it already showed that it can be a medium of exchange. It already showed that it can be a store of value. And then there's this interesting discussion. I talked with Bram about that of like how many people do we need? Of like how many people do we need to really adopt Bitcoin as money to make it a global option? And I make it very very bad example for Bitcoiners. It's about vegetarians. I don't know if you have heard that comparison. Think about a restaurant, and the restaurant has no vegetarian option. This restaurant, if there are no vegetarians in the world, like it will just go on. But if there are 5% vegetarians in the world, or like let's say a higher number, let's say 10% vegetarians in the world on average, and the restaurant has like 1,000 people running through there, and 10% of those people running through there come in and say, "Hey, do you have a vegetarian option?" No. Oh, we have to go because like I only eat vegetarian. At some point, the store owner will say, I don't know if this number is 3%, 10%, or 8%. At some point, the store owner will be like, hey, let's put one vegetarian option in there just so that the people stop leaving if they already sat down and are prepared to order.
Exactly.
And the same thing might happen with Bitcoin when if a small but loud enough intolerant minority is there that says like, I want to pay in Bitcoin. I don't want to pay in anything else.
You quoted the trader, dude. How dare you?
what trader?
No, I'm not diving into the Dragon's Lair. I shouldn't have said anything.
We're feeling divisive today. Yeah, our last president may have been vegetarian to his heart and brain.
No, I think he meant something different, Johnny. That he was a vegetable.
Yeah,
he was a vegetable. Business market forces will incentivize the use of Bitcoin as a medium of exchange naturally. I mean, likely second layers, of course, but Bitcoin. But most people probably, when they're serious, solid Bitcoiners, it's less of a sound money as it is that sound store value. And I think that is perfectly fine.
What would you say is sound money? Like, how would you define sound money?
So in the sense that say you have your longer term treasury that you hold and you don't want to be debased. If you're going to use a part of that in a liquid fashion to just simply transact in the world and interact with the world, as you're doing that, it's nice to know that also isn't being debased as you're using it, and you don't have to on-ramp and off-ramp to do that. It itself can be, so be like, yeah, you have your money in your bank account, and that is sound. And then you've got some money in your wallet, and you'd like that to be the same thing, and you don't want to have to convert.
So what gives it the properties of money versus like we're just trading property, like fractional property?
It might be semantics. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it has to be different.
Well, that's kind of the thing is like I look at it and go, money doesn't really have a definition, right? Like I've given it a definition. Adam Smith gave it a definition. Lynn Alden gives it a definition. Safadine gives it a definition, but I don't think it's definable, right? I believe there is a core definition of it. It's a tool to extract resources from a population, but the way people view money is malleable, right? So I think it makes it difficult to parse that out because I think you're right. You go, is this a semantic thing? Like if I had a pile of blueberries and I could fractionally divide them down to the micron level, and blueberries are super rare and hard to get, and me and Robin wanted to trade blueberries, like we could go, well, that's money because we're using it as money based on the definition that Adam Smith gave. But Adam Smith was some retard from the 1700s who thought, bleeding people was a good way to balance the humors. So he's not exactly a great resource for defining a thing that drives the modern economy today. I mean, that guy couldn't even conceive of heavier than air flight, and he probably would have stoned a witch to death because she cast a spell on him, So that's like the level of retardation that we're relying on for our money definition today. And so I go, well, if me and Robin are trading blueberries and we didn't have a preconceived notion of what money is, what would me and Robin be doing? Using money or trading blueberries?
Right.
It may be a semantic distinction, but I go, well, but it's an important distinction at the end of the day, because if you're saying, I want this to be money and someone's thinking currency, I want this to be money and someone's thinking store of value, if I want this to be money and someone's thinking that's how I tax people, I want this to be money and that means something else, you kind of go, well, what are we talking about anymore, right? But if you had the ability to directly trade property, you kind of go, well, okay, this property represents X amount of value. So, it becomes a very different kind of conversation, right? Like, I don't know, dude. Like, if I wanted to get 100 horseshoes off of you, Fritz, because I know you're the best blacksmith in town, and I trade you a bunch of paper for it, and you go, yeah, we used money. You go, well, what you did was you traded a promise. You traded the sovereign promise to return like value, but you didn't really. But the paper isn't really the money, is it? Like, what's the money there? Is that because, as everyone's pointed out, paper has no value, right? So you go, what did we just trade? But everyone calls the dollar money. But at the back end of that, there is an apparatus, the sovereign, that is going, okay, well, we make more of this paper every single year, so we get more value. And we force people to pay taxes in this paper, so we get their value. And we can trade this paper to our subjects to get things from them. So there's value there, right? So they are just extracting value by this thing that they print out of thin air and forcing you to use. So you go, okay, that's money. But if you go, well, I want Bitcoin to replace that, and you go, wait, so you want the sovereign to use Bitcoin to extract value from you? Is that what you're saying now? And people go, no, that's not what I'm saying. I want to be able to black market money where I can trade. So you go, okay, so now we're back to bartering property. Is that correct? And they go, no, it's money because it's, I just go, you end up in this like really weird circular logic that doesn't ever resolve. So I'm kind of curious how that all plays out. Like, now that I've said all this, I'm just out here just spouting a bunch of fucking philosophical nonsense. I'm curious what you guys think of that take.
Well, Bitcoin could just be the most common used, relatable asset of exchange. Like, you can use it as a medium of exchange. And then our fiat linguistics, our sense of what money is, being the linguistics of our financial brain. We're used to thinking in terms of fiat money. So, okay, we're going to replace fiat money, but it would be something inherently different. Yes, it's a medium of exchange, as it's also inherently a property. So a property that can magically be used as a medium of exchange and yet isn't issued, isn't like controlled by a government or entity or otherwise extracted from you and isn't debased. People are going to probably use the word money even as what they probably mean is the most common medium of exchange, which also happens to be like the best property on the planet. I don't know. Maybe it's just the words.
Yeah, it's the words. I mean, I think we need a new language for this, right? But I don't know. What do you think, Robin?
I literally, because I never really questioned those two terminologies. For me, what it like kind of interchangeable, and I just went on a deep rabbit hole with ChatGPT. I was like, what the heck is the difference between like sound money and pristine property? And it was kind of confusing what he said, like, like every pristine property can be sound money, but not all sound monies can be pristine property. And I was kind of going down and saying like, you don't make any sense. And he said like, sound money is sound money has those properties, and then pristine property also has those properties, but additionally them. And I'm like, and those additional properties the same that also sound money has? And you're like, oh yeah, like you're kind of right, but it's like it's and he literally brought that thing up. It's kind of like there's a sound car that runs reliable and gets you where you need to go, and there's a pristine car that's perfectly engineered and the machine does exactly what it needs to do, but it's still a car. And I'm like, okay, so it's kind of the same thing. And he's like, okay, yeah, like so it was a small fun chat, and that's where I'm like, if you say sound money to 10 people, they probably have 10 kind of different definitions, the same way as if I say pristine property, if I say to 10 different people of like, what is it? And this is also so hard with Bitcoin, because like the Bitcoin, what it is today, we never really had. We had maybe similar things. Maybe we can combine 1, 2, 3 things together, and like there is Bitcoin, but we never really had it. So that's why I like to say, Bitcoin is just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to get our minds around the idea that, it's like if you want to hold something as a store of value in the best way you can, what we're used to is that kind of a thing is something that's not very liquid either. It's like it's gold, it's property, it's things that are like illiquid, and that makes them physically hold value. Whereas Bitcoin can do all that and be very liquid as well. And so it's like a different frame on the capability of sound property.
I love the last sentence that ChatGPT told me. So calling Bitcoin a pristine asset is really just another way of saying it is the purest form of sound money ever created.
Ding, 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 ding.
Nice. Well, see, that's the beauty of it. I actually love that you had that conversation with the robot, because if you can trip up a robot with this, just think about like a person who has all their biases and heuristics and all the fucking shit. And you go like, if the robot can't quite figure out what you're trying to say or what Bitcoin is or what money is, because if you ask the robot right now, you go, hey, what's money? And it'll go, oh, store value, medium exchange, blah, 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 right? And then I go, well, if you ask the robot again, well, hey, that's basically rooted in Adam Smith's conjecture about what money is. But anthropologists have determined that no society has ever developed the way Adam Smith suggested. So what happens then? And they go, oh, well, yeah, actually, I mean, money is this, blah, blah, blah. And like you can spin that robot into a fucking circle, and it'll just sit there going like, I don't, well, money is like this and that. It's a social construct, and you get into all these fucking weeds about like what money is. It's one of the reasons why when I hear people say like Bitcoin is a monetary network, I go, you can't fucking define that, dude. Like you'll never ever in 100 billion years define what a monetary network is, because it's an impossible definition, because you can't even define what money is right out of the gate, let alone have everyone agree on what money is. Like you said, if 10 people go sound money, you got 10 people who are going to say something different, right? If you go Bitcoin isn't money, it's property, then you get 10 people arguing about it. Bitcoin is pristine money that functions as sound money, people argue about it, right? So like these definitions matter. People say it's like, you know, whinging about definitions and shit like that. And I go, yeah, but it's more important than that, because you can't have a common discussion if you don't have a common language, right? And so if you are putting narratives on top of uncommon language, then you end up with people divided over shit they don't even know what the hell they're talking about, right? So I don't know, dude. The conversation with ChatGPT is pretty interesting. Like the properties of money, I think, are, well, that kind of traces me back to an idea. They go, well, okay, if this is the best money, then why do we need money, right? Because money, if you take as true my definition and go, money is a tool to extract resources from a population, right? Like trade developed because people implemented money, not money developed because people implemented trade, right? Because absent money, the way trade looks is called sharing, right? Like if all of us lived on an island, if we got stranded in the Canadian wilderness, all three of us, and we went, oh man, like I'm pretty good at hunting. Fritz is pretty good at making fucking wolf socks or whatever. And Robin's really good at picking berries off tall trees because he's tall. So, okay, Robin's going to get berries. Fritz is going to make wolf socks. I'm going to go get some meat, or I'm going to pluck some eyeballs out of birds or whatever it is. I'm going to go kill frogs. And we all come together with our shared bounty. And we go, okay, now we need to come up with some bark chips so we can trade this amongst each other. You go, what? Why would we do that? What are you talking about? Well, we need to make sure that we have a medium of exchange. And you go, no, why don't you just give me some wolf socks and I'll give you some berries and you give me some meat and we'll all share. And then we'll, multiply and go on into the world. Right. So like, why would you ever need a currency if you could just trade? Because you don't. Because it's called sharing, because that's how every human civilization up until agriculture did things. They just shared stuff, right? And it wasn't until someone came along to try and steal stuff that you needed to figure out how to trade stuff. So it's kind of like, so it gets into this kind of weird morass. But then you go, well, if the Bitcoin standard comes in, which I sort of disagree with that idea, but if we go, okay, well, Bitcoin is a pristine asset and we live in a society that prioritizes capturing assets and holding assets, then what does society look like? Because you're not talking about like, well, you need to go do trade so we can tax you because you can't take my asset, right? So why would you engage in trade just so someone can steal shit from you, So wouldn't it suddenly make more sense that like all these communities start going, well, instead of us engaging in trade where we're using money that the sovereign can come and take as a tax, how about we just share and we have some sort of way of determining who's reliable trading partner and who's not, versus we need to have little bits of paper or bark chips or shells or beads or even Bitcoin at that point for trade. Why can't we just exchange value? Like it gets into a sort of a weird. Thanks, Johnny. I mean, what do you guys think? Like,
that's why I'm here too. I get what you're saying, and I agree. So let's just start with the premise that money came from the need for a sovereign to create a mechanism for taxation. So money was created so that the subjects could be taxed by the sovereign. I think people are going to use that term or that concept, even as we say we evolve towards a Bitcoin standard, and the use and the way we do medium of exchange stuff changes in terms of what we think money is. The word may just get co-opted by a change in culture, and that when you think of a modern age where there's just, okay, you do this, you do that, I do 100 other things, and there's an infinite number of services and the internet of things and the stuff you want to get or the things you want to do. I can see that, call it money. Money is going to be kind of that neutral platform language that we use to communicate what that means. Like we're going to use a language to describe that. It's going to be attached to sort of a numerical value, something decimal that we understand mathematically. So it may just be that the way we use money, the way we use the word money changes, and money is no longer that sovereign taxation of subject use. It's more just we are sharing, but we do that with a liquid grease, if you will.
I like that. What do you think, Robin?
There's also the aspect of money as a ranking system of like kind of keeping tips on like who's doing extremely good in society. And I went really deep with I think Luke Broyles on that, because previously to him I had a conversation with Noah Kaufman, and he kind of described a potential future after Bitcoin where we have a moneyless society. And I was kind of fascinated by that idea, even though I have a hard time really grasping that we really get there. And I brought it up to Luke, and he was kind of the thinking that we will always have some sort of keeping tabs of like keeping like, oh, like I have so many dollars, like I have so many Bitcoin, and especially in Bitcoin, like it's such a huge thing, you know, like get to 0.1 Bitcoin, get to 1 Bitcoin, like this unit bias is so huge in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so like this is a whole nother aspect of money. Of you can also define money as like just a ranking system in society where who stands where, and it also ties a little bit in resource capture, like keeping tabs, like how many resources did you already capture. So yeah, it's we went really deep. I like how Johnny said it, like it's like unusually deep today.
Yeah, businesses want to keep score, or like, I mean, if one business wants to get a controlling interest or buy out another one, or a founder wants to retire and is like, I will sell what I built. Well, what is that worth? Well, I've built up this number of, we're going to call it Bitcoin. That's what it's worth. So
yeah. Well,
Luke
I mean,
Broyles, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go. No, finish.
Well,
please.
so I was just going to say real quick, Luke Broyles, I think, is like the most bullish guy about Bitcoin I've ever heard. When he tweets and what he says, it's like the most extreme bullish thing on Bitcoin, which I don't disagree with, but he is definitely bullish.
There's another one. I think there's Ratoshi. I think he's definitely more bullish than him. He has the. I just had him on the podcast, and we did an in-person podcast in Austria, because he is also Austrian.
Oh, nice.
And we did it in a small little nice studio here in Austria.
That's cool.
And he has the price model that Bitcoin will just keep doubling every year, as also the I love it. It keep doubling as the hash rate also keeps doubling every year. And I think he had a price target of one Satoshi hits $1 trillion by 2078. So
we're gonna have to make Bitcoin even more divisible.
Yeah.
Nanosats.
Yeah,
Nanotoshis.
Yeah, Nanotoshi. Well, I'm super interested to hear that Noah Kaufman interview now. Like that really tickled my like curiosity bone. I'm just like, oh, I want to hear this. Hopefully you can share a little bit more about it in a second. But yeah, that's kind of what I get to is like, if it is a scorecard, like if we take as true, and this is just a pure hypothetical, like sort of, deep dive into the weeds here, but if we take as true that money was invented and created to tax subjects, right, to extract value from subjects, and then be used by the sovereign to get things from their subjects when the sovereign needs them, right? Like, and that's not a foregone conclusion. That's just a theory I have. So if you go, well, people developed trade so they could pay that tax, right? And they developed trade for profit to pay the tax. You go, well, it costs me X amount of time, X amount of resources to build X amount of wolf skin shoes or ox carts or whatever it is. So in order for me to pay my tax, I have to sell these ox carts to other people, including the sovereign, for more than it cost me so I can pay the sovereign's tax and then have enough that I can buy from other people they're being extracted from, so I can go get stuff I need when I need it. So you get that division of labor thing, and people going like, well, instead of me just making all my shit, I can rely on this person, and I can use this thing that's sovereign issues that I got to pay my tax in anyway. And this is kind of a convenient arrangement. But if that sovereign influence goes away, then what becomes of trade? Like, why would you go through the trouble of building like a big business or do all this kind of stuff? Because like this whole entire apparatus that we live in right now, especially in the West, is built on a fiat system, fiat rails, that is predicated on debt. So you go, well, they built the iPhone because of debt, and they built computers because of debt, and they built, intercontinental highway systems because of debt, and they built heavy and air flight that anybody can travel around the world because of debt. So what happens when the debt portion goes away? Like, how many of these things are still incentivized to keep being made? So what scorecard are you keeping at that point if people go like, well, that's all kind of a waste. That's a waste of my time, energy, and resources, because I don't have to pay my tax anymore because the taxing mechanism is gone because the sovereign doesn't control the thing that we're exchanging. So why am I going to go through all this trouble to pay you a tax when I can just like sit here and grow a vegetable farm, or I can raise some llamas, or I can go, get my big titty wife and go off in the woods somewhere and make babies, and, and we can like milk cows and, farm goats, and I don't have to worry about any of this shit. Like, I can just check out of this system. I don't have to participate in warfare. I don't have to participate in corporate takeovers and all this hostile shit that comes out of a competitive fiat environment. You go, well, what becomes of trade? Like, do we still incentivize iPhones? Do we still incentivize cellular networks? Do we still incentivize, like, all those things are built on top of a fiat idea? And if the fiat idea goes away, does all that stuff go away too? Because suddenly it becomes way less profitable to do those things because you're not getting cheap money out of thin air. You don't have a consumer-based economy. You have a savings-based economy. And if you have a savings-based economy, then people are far less likely to squander money on trinkets and ding-dongs, and far more likely to conserve resources. So you go, well, what happens to all the businesses? They kind of don't matter anymore, right? Or would they? I don't know. I mean,
I can still see at a core fundamental human level people wanting to create, learn, thrive, explore, build stuff, tinker, dabble in science, dabble in art, dabble in expression. And that is worth something, and it's worth sharing. So like the next, not to call it late game or late stage, but the next level of the great realignment would be the cultural realignment, aside from, say, we fix the money. And then the cultural realignment that occurs over time is that time preference, that quality of life, your incentives, and what you do with your time. And that could still be very productive, as people, I think, are innately wanting to do. And those things are going to have value. It may not be that, well, I just want more of that just to have more of that, but it's just that we enjoy doing this stuff. So that would be like the new economy.
Potentially. What do you think, Robin? I don't know.
It's very hard, honestly, because it's like there's a lot of them. The definitions of all those like words. You're like, okay, like what is money? What's the monetary network? Like how do we rank things in the future? I usually default to like, I don't know.
These are deep questions.
We might end up like killing ourselves, or like we might end up. And this is actually something going back to Rotoshi, because I think it's really interesting what he have kind of built. He built that whole story since like years now, where he imagines like that rats take over, and it's obviously a sci-fi story, but it's interesting because he imagined from first principles like, oh, how would civilization built on rats, they are in the future, how would they communicate to each other? Like what would they build? And he kind of came up with that theory that in a trustless society where you don't have the option to like get taxes from someone, like if someone comes to you and like you're like, oh, give me your money, you're like, oh, I have Bitcoin, I don't have to give it to you. Right. He has the thing where everything you do, you have to collateralize beforehand. So if you let's say we made that example of the podcast, you come in this podcast studio, I rented the podcast studio for like 2 hours, and not only do I have to pay for the studio, but I have to put up a little bit of collateral, like almost like a deposit, to go in there. And if I don't damage it, I get it back. If I damage it, like the collateral is gone. And it was kind of interesting for me to think about, like if everything works on Bitcoin and there's no central authority, there's no third party that can take anyone's anything away, we might end up of like, if you want to do anything, you have to put up some collateral in case you do something shitty. So there's something to take away from you, because if we don't have the keys of your Bitcoin, we cannot take it away from you. And this was also an interesting thing, and I'm not at all associated with him, but just because I literally have it on my desk, like this is his book.
Yeah, he wrote a book. Yeah.
Nice.
It comes out, like it's not even out yet.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know if I should show it, but it's out in like next Wednesday, I think, so it should not be that bad. And it is really interesting because this whole book is very much about Bitcoin, but he doesn't mention Bitcoin once. And it's a sci-fi that's intentionally designed for people, for young men and women to be enjoyed.
Nice.
And I'm really curious, like, because he could have actually have written a Bitcoin book that is enjoyed by the mainstream without noticing that it's about Bitcoin. Like he has a lot of references to Bitcoin. He talks about the time chain. So he thinks that the time chain is ruling everything in the future. He talks about like there's like spaceships, and one is like called the Halfini spaceship, and the one is the Nakamoto spaceship, and like things like that. So like if you read it as a Bitcoiner, you really like get all the references, and you're like, oh, like Bitcoin in every second sentence, but it's never really mentioned. I mean, there's a whole nother tangent, but I think this is a really good way of thinking about the future, not imagining our own human bias and like, okay, what if rats take over? How would they, in a very advanced civilization, organize themselves if they have the best possible money? And I kind of like that, like deposit world. Not really. Like it's like it reminds me of if you go to holidays, you have to rent a car. You always have to put a deposit because there's zero trust. You don't trust them, they don't trust you, and that's why there's a deposit in the way. But if the whole world is like that, because we cannot trust people, because like their money cannot be taken away from a third party. Like if someone breaks in, like as someone does here in Austria or something, they're like a police force, and like you have some sort of trust in them, and like you can seize assets. But with Bitcoin, it's harder to do. So I don't know. That's just recent thoughts in my head. But in general, like how will society will be organized in 1,000 years? Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's like super fascinating, man. Like I can't wait to read that book, dude.
Yeah, me too.
Well, my kind of core idea is like if you want to maintain fiat things, you have to use fiat money, right? Like, And everything we do is fiat things. Like this podcast is because of fiat things. This computer that we're on, or I'm on, or we're all on, is a fiat thing. And the network that we're on is a fiat thing. And the way that we can broadcast this and talk to people and why we talk to people is a fiat thing. And like it's all motivated by fiat ideas, objectives, currencies, everything, right? So if people go, I like the way the world is for the most part, except for this one thing where somebody takes stuff from me. You go, well, the reason why people take stuff from you is the reason why you have all these things that you like. It's not, you don't get all this without the other thing. And what I can point to very clearly is like 250,000 years of human history where we didn't have these things. There were no rulers. And most of those societies that developed at that time were very, 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 very strongly against some guy rising up and saying, hey, I'm the leader now. Like they would just bash that guy down. The second the guy gets up and goes, I'm telling everybody what they're doing, the rest of the tribe would go, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. We're all equal here, GFY. And they would literally beat the guy out of the tribe if they had to. So they very much trounced on any idea of hierarchy, leadership, and things like that. That just all went away. It wasn't until agriculture, and it wasn't until there were resources to capture and hoard and steal that hierarchy starts showing up, right? And it's not until there's agriculture that people are hoarding things, and there's not until agriculture that people start coming up with these ideas of like comparing themselves to the Joneses and getting like, classes of people and all that. That all came from resource capture. It didn't come from like an innate human trait. The innate human trait is we're all equal, right? Like that's the core. And I can point to 250,000 years of humans doing that versus 12,000 years of humans not doing that. And you go, well, which one are you going to give more weight to? Probably the 250,000 years more than the 12,000, right? So if that's true, and if you take away the sovereign capture thing, but like I said in the book, if you play that society out, most of the stuff that we take for granted and really, really like about the modern world goes away. Like just by definition, it has to go away because this is all created based on the idea that I get to hold stuff. You don't, I can exclude you from stuff. Like there's no egalitarianism. There's no equality in this system. It's who gets the most quickest wins, right? So if you take away that incentive, then you go, what happens to the world? So if you look at it from a bifurcated standpoint, you go, well, hey, I like some of the things that are in the world. I don't want to go back to like scraping honey badgers out of the ground and bash them with a stick so I can eat them. And I don't want to go collect honey from a beehive where I get stung 46,000 times. And I don't want to have to go collect my fruit every fucking time I want to eat something. Like I kind of like that I can go to the store down on the corner and just buy this shit and not face death or fall off a tree or this or that or the other thing. I kind of like that I can just go get like a sweet frappuccino whatever thing from the corner. But those are all fiat things, right? So you go, well, is it beneficial then to say, well, hey, there is a reason and a purpose for the sovereign, so we can do these neat things and still support life on Earth? Because right now, if 8.2 billion people start trying to hunter gather their way through the world, we're going to run out of resources in a week. Like it all just gets gobbled up and then we all starve to death. So that doesn't sound like a good outcome. So what kind of world do we want to build? Because we can look at the world and go, hey, fiat and debt gave us a vision of the world that we never had before. Like nobody 250,000 years ago could have pictured a city or a fucking spaceship or traveling to Mars or talking like this over a fucking box that you plug into a wall that just by magic you get to talk to people and see their face, right? Like this is all sci-fi shit, right? But it's all built on fiat. So you go, hey, some of that fiat shit's pretty cool, right? Like our lives are pretty easy by comparison. Like if one of us went down and joined the Hazda tribe, we would starve for 6 months if it weren't for the graciousness of them feeding us because we couldn't keep up with them. Like we literally just can't run as fast as they can. We can't run as long as they can. We can't climb trees like they can. And the first time we go and try and get honey out of hive, those guys are getting stung by bees and they just don't care. We'd be like, oh my God. And we'd be covered with welts and we would literally die if we tried to live like them tomorrow. But they've adapted because that's the life they persisted with, right? So you go, well, we are now in a place where we've been so softened and fattened up by the fiat world that but there's also a lot more of us. Like there's 8 billion people now. Like the world supports 8 billion people because of fiat, not because of sound money, right? So does it make sense to go, well, we should preserve some parts of the system because they actually kind of work and they're helping human thriving. It's just the way they're doing it kind of sucks. So if you have this parallel thing that survives with the fiat thing, so you get the best of both worlds, isn't that a better way forward than smash the state and just have the Bitcoin only thing and everyone goes back to being the road warrior with their fucking seed phrase tattooed on their forehead, right? Like, isn't that, I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me, but maybe I'm just way off in, maybe I'm just corrupted by feds that just want to promote.
Fed.
Yeah, I just want to promote the fiat system. But I mean, do you guys see what I'm coming with or coming at? Or
well, and it may be that, what we're used to experiencing in our world of what we enjoy benefiting from, the technology and the things that have all been fiat. We inherently still want those things.
Corn bucket thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that was funny.
we still want those things. Like you go to the indigenous tribe and you have some extra cotton T-shirts and they're like, we want those too. Can we have those? I mean, they want those because they're better
pretty sweet,
or
dude. Yeah, they're pretty sweet. Yeah.
So people naturally want the what's better. If the incentives are really realigned, and maybe eventually, it's not that it's fiat, it's just that that's what humans want, but the incentives are fixed. Now, they came from a fiat place, but we have realigned all of it. And the goal would be, can we have the energy, the abundance, the things we want with the right incentives? Can we have all of that and make that sustainable? Say, like you refer maybe to, like, is this sustainable on planet Earth as a growing population of animals sharing this Earth? Can we have the abundance we need and do all this sustainably? I would think so and hope so, but that's going to come as that sustainability would have to be one of the incentives in the world, because when it's not working, we would all be feeling that as well, you would think. So,
I think that's the fiat system, right? Like that sustainability doesn't exist, and that's why the fiat system is so corrupt. So doesn't Bitcoin fix that? I don't know. Sorry, you were going to say something before, Robin.
I have so many thoughts on this, and it's especially because there are people on both spectrums. There's people who say like, oh, like in 2 years the fiat system is completely like gone, and I'm like, sounds unlikely, and also I don't want that. Because what does that mean for society if the whole fiat system, meaning all G3 nations and all of the other ones, of course, also like just completely, the whole financial system completely disappears, not even collapses, but disappears. I don't think this is a situation where we really want or should hope for. Then the other thing is like, maybe it's a very long, like hundreds and thousands of years of slow getting out of that fiat system. Seems more likely. I personally think all my life, if I die in like, let's say 80 years or like 70 years or like whatever the time frame is, I think in all my life I will see some sort of government tokens. So it will, in that sense, fiat will always be around. In so like, oh, like you need that government token to pay your taxes, and if you want to have welfare or you're out of job, like you get those government tokens and not like the real thing with Bitcoin. And it's an interesting thought of isn't having the option of Bitcoin already enough? Of like, if you can pay everywhere with Bitcoin, if you can get paid in Bitcoin, if you can store your value in Bitcoin, isn't that already the dream? If that option is valid, is recognized, and is for everyone available, that already sounds amazing. Then the question is like, will we come to the point where there's only Bitcoin and no other currencies, no private currencies, no fiat currencies, nothing? I have a hard time seeing that currently, and I talk with Bitcoiners every single day and with the most most bullish Bitcoiners every single day, and there are a lot of them that believe that, but there are also a lot of them that don't believe that. And I'm just like, there's a huge network effect to all of it. And this is hard to break. I mean, Facebook is still around and a lot of people use it. And I'm like, why are people still on Facebook?
I made the mistake of hopping
sense
on there once. Yeah.
And if you look at the daily active users and the monthly active users, assuming Meta is not cheating, a lot of people are on there, and it's still like one of the biggest platforms. And I'm like, how? Like, I get Instagram, I get Twitter, I get even TikTok and all of other platforms, because like, if I look through the train, like people are on TikTok, people are on Instagram, people are on Twitter, but like Facebook, nobody's on there. Like I don't know.
It's persistent and big, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that, man.
And those network effects are just like super hard to beat.
Yeah.
Thinking of the fiat mindset that we're used to, the world we grew up in. So I've got a question. I've got a question. Just thinking out loud here, Daniel. So you think way back, even long before there was money and a family or a tribe. I mean, there's that innate biological interest for your children, your offspring, that, while they're still growing up, and humans' development takes years. It's not like, a deer gives birth to a baby deer, as we've seen this summer, and they're up and running and they're kind of independent within months, say. Whereas humans take years, and having raised teenagers, it it takes forever.
Yeah.
But there's still, it's a very social construct. But there's an innate human interest in looking after your children and then their children, and you have your tribe. Is it fiat, say, to want to accumulate not just enough abundance for you or for this season or for your local family, but that you want to accumulate and store and save? And as far as the resource capture game goes, accumulate more than you really need, just in case. But it's not selfish. It's thinking of your kids, your bloodline, or even your community. That's not so fiat, is it? But it is a resource capture.
Well, I mean, I would say that is precisely what fiat drives you towards, right? Like, there were no, like, if you go ask the Hazda right now, do you guys save up for the future, and do you save more than the tribe needs so you can protect your kids' future? And it would be such a foreign concept to them. They'd just be like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't understand. If my kids are suffering, that means we're all suffering, right? So the idea of like, well, I'm going to hoard to protect mine is absolutely the cornerstone of the fiat game, right?
I see.
So, like I said, if the three of us, when we brought 3 big corn bucket ladies with us and decided we're going to start a new society out in the Canadian wilderness with no other input, I don't think the first thing we would do is come up with a monetary system, right? Like, it just wouldn't happen. Our first instinct would be to like collectively build and collectively share and collectively distribute resources and things like that. Now, the hippies try and do this kind of shit all the time with their little communes, and we're all going to work together and blah, 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 blah. The problem with those experiments is they are contained and captured within a fiat system, right? Like, they're not building from scratch. They're building somewhere where they go, well, I guess I could just run down to Home Depot real fast and get whatever XYZ thing. So if you were excluded from the fiat system entirely, like, there are still tribes of people that exist to this day, and they are completely cut off from the fiat system in every way, shape, and form. Unless some guy comes strolling through town with a t-shirt, they just don't know or care about any of this shit. And they certainly don't spend a lot of time thinking about how they're going to hoard resources for the next blah, 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 blah. That is a fiat mindset. That is from someone might come and take this from me. Something bad could happen. I'm going to lose my crop. But that by definition, it says that you've been disconnected from the natural world, because like Eskimos, the Inuit, let's say, they exist in the harshest environment on planet Earth, or one of the harshest environments on planet Earth, and they do just fine without any, they existed up there for tens of thousands of years without ever having a single access to a Home Depot or a cell phone, and they do just fine. And they very much care about their children. and they very much teach their children, like their wealth comes from like, I'm going to pass all this great, amazing ancestral knowledge to my children so they too can thrive just like I am, right? It's not about like, I'm going to hoard all this shit and keep others from having it so I make sure that my kids go. Like they all collectively share the knowledge, share the wisdom, share the techniques, share the tactics. And those guys live right on the survival threshold. Like they fuck up and they die, right? There's no like, oh, well, I just kind of injured myself out here while I was dog sledding and I'll just wait for the ambulance to come. Like they just die, dude. So, so there's a lot to be said for like the shifting of priorities and what that looks like without a sovereign and someone coming and take your shit, right? And I mean, I get what you're saying 100% for it's like the idea of like, hey, well, I want to make sure my kids are okay. Yeah. But you have to think that way in a fiat system, because if you don't, then you're putting your kids at risk. But if you don't live in a fiat system, then thinking that way puts you at odds with the community. Does that make sense?
Right. I have thought those things in the past, and I hadn't really framed it around economics. It was more just kind of political science ideas. And at the same time, fiat is very infectious because you'll see an indigenous community, say, and then along comes some traders or someone with some whiskey or some extra stuff and technology, or hey, you want a gun? And it's like, yeah, we want that. Like they just don't know any better. So it's addictive. It's infectious. Like the Inuit out there, they're living sustainably. They're doing fine. Maybe for reasons, maybe just because they don't know anything else. The Russians come along and are like, we'll give you a bottle of whiskey for every seal pelt you do. And they're like, I mean, not everyone, but say there's an incentive there to say, let's go club all the seals then. Right. So can we claw our way out of that with the knowledge we have now about what works and is sustainable, what money is, what's healthy for society? We're in the process now with Bitcoin. Can we claw our way back out? And I think we can. It's just going to take a lot of time.
Yeah. What do you think, Robin? You look like you're pondering.
yeah, a lot actually. It's really interesting episode. Honestly, I love that because it's a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas that make me think about things, and it's the like the systems, and that's what I think a lot about the fiat system. Also, they kind of grow over time. And there might be initially a bad thought on it, like a bad intention of like, oh, like we want to do this, and like it's really bad. But at the maturity of it, it just grows into what it is. We have, might be interesting for Americans, we had a small incident in Austria, where a small incident, and for Austria, a very big incident, where in a school there was a shooter, and there was a few dead ones, but it was not that bad. I think it was, I mean, it's always bad if in a school is a shooter, but in terms of like other school shootings, and it's very rare that something like that happens in Austria. In Austria, it's very calm usually. And now we had the whole debate about gun violence. And there was basically just one party that said like, oh, like those laws that you restricting gun now is like not really applicable even to this incident, because in those incidents usually the gun owner doesn't acquire his gun legally anyways. And what they're doing is with this new system is like restricting the legal acquiring of guns, of like, yeah, that's a nice idea of like increasing the age of like when you get a gun, and increasing the background checks and increasing like the things that you have to do to get a gun. But in those shootings, in all cases, the gun was actually acquired illegally. So they don't care about those rules. And then there is just this system building of, hey, there's this thing happening, we want to build that law. Okay, makes sense. And then this and this happens. And the system is just growing bigger and bigger, and at some point it's just like such a bad system, and we don't know how we ended up here, but it was like a lot of small things. And I think about the fiat and the banking system, and all of that. Also, there was maybe like a very bad, like the creature of Jekyll Island, like the all those meetings, and we can go down that rabbit hole of like how bad and like how evil those people are. But at the heart of it, like I think it just grew in a bad way. It just became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't think that the central bankers are all evil. I just think they're very blind to what they're doing, and they're just in a system, and they're just like one player there, and they see what they see only.
That's the system they know.
Yeah, and so coming back to like what is all that meaning, and
what does all this mean?
and I'm just happy, honestly, that I have something that I can save in, and it's like, especially as Bitcoiners, I think we sometimes losing ourselves in conversations and discussions that maybe don't matter that much. I think the core versus not thing, I do think it matters to a certain extent, but I think it's completely overblown if like how emotional and everything like that, and like what does really matter? Like, oh yeah, I have with Bitcoin something that I can save for, and I have that, and then like I can restore my energy somewhere, and so this is like for me the important point of like, and I have it on my podcast a lot of like they're coming here and you're talking about chemtrails and like bad things happening here and bad things happening here, and like everything is evil in the world, and like we're going to shit in 5 years, and they wanna, and I'm like, yeah, maybe,
yeah,
maybe, and if I really think about all those things every single day, then yeah, I think that everything is very bad, and like I better stay at home and sit in my corner with my gun and wait till someone comes,
right?
Or I just focus on the positive things and focus that actually life is quite good. Like we can fly anywhere, we can do things, and I don't know how I ended up here actually, but but I think it's like life is good, Bitcoin is amazing, and we should be very hopeful and grateful for like what we have and where we are going.
Yeah, so well said, dude. Yeah,
Yep.
I 100% agree. I mean, like, I actually love that you mentioned that, because that's called an affect bias. And people tend to focus on things like, we need to worry about the zombie apocalypse and the evil cabal of people and terrorists and this and that and the other thing. Meanwhile, it's like you got a 1 in 6 chance of dying from a heart attack here in the United States of America. You got a 1 in 32 chance of getting burglarized. You got a 1 in 1,000 chance or whatever of getting hurt in a car accident. I mean, like, do you use a ladder? Yeah, well, you got a real high risk of getting seriously injured or mangled by just climbing up a ladder. So you should probably, think about those things. So like if people did exactly what you said and go like, hey, well, I need to focus on the here and now. What is the world like in my sphere? You go, well, I should probably protect my heart and my organs. I should probably do things to protect that, because that's a super high risk and super prevalent. I should learn like defensive driving if I'm going to operate a vehicle, because like just driving your car around doesn't mean you know how to handle your vehicle in an emergency, right? They're completely different skill sets. But if you have emergency driving skills, it reduces your likelihood of being injured or killed in an accident by like 40%, which is huge. Like that's a massive effect for just taking a class where you learn how to like skid steer and shit like that, right? So it's like, let's focus on some real practical problems. Yeah, it's fine to be worried about like maybe the chemtrails are depositing aluminum, blah, 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 whatever. Never mind. There's like an abundance of evidence that contradicts that. So maybe look at some of that with an open mind and all of these things. And then, like worrying about terrorism and stuff, like, it's like, how about like literally go touch some grass, go walk in the sun, fix your diet, stop getting drunk all the time because you're so worried about the zombie apocalypse and you're just trying to numb yourself from all the fiat horrors that might be coming maybe someday. And focus on shit that makes the world better right now, especially in your own world. So I don't know, dude, I love what you said, Robin. I think it's
and especially with heart health, like if you focus so much on the bad things, your heart is probably so stressed out that you are more likely to actually like die from that. Yeah.
yeah, next year,
Any day
Johnny.
now.
Any
Johnny,
day
what
now.
day we got
Yeah.
Sven Moon?
Win Lambo, dude.
Yeah, having perspective is important. Flexibility of mind. There's so many topics that I shouldn't even mention the crazy scenarios that I've thought about in my world and then put on a shelf just to know that I've got a bookmark. I've got bookmarks for stuff, but I don't review them daily because it just it could be bad for mental health. And so having the perspective, I mean, I titled this podcast Radical Acceptance because I had on my mind things we talked about last week about personal growth, Bitcoin's effect on personal growth and relationships, and forcing me to just speaking for myself when it comes to like especially intimate relationships
Thank you,
and
God, Johnny, man.
accepting feedback. Thanks, Johnny. Accepting feedback, true listening, taking a pause and not being wrapped up in yourself or what you have to say and what you're doing. Those are hard things to do. And then playing that out, there is a point when I was imagining, okay, I'm maintaining a good flexibility of mind and radical acceptance, and that is growth for me and learning and hard work too. And there are boundaries or lines at which I don't radically accept things outside a certain sphere. I don't ignore them. I don't say, nope, they're wrong. But my radical acceptance may be to say, well, maybe, Daniel, I'll hear you say that sometimes. It's like, well, maybe. It doesn't have to be like, well, is it yes or is it no? Is it knots or is it core? And for me, at times, it's like, well, run a node, or, well, maybe. There are things I put on a shelf all the time so that I maintain a flexibility of mind, and I'll remember at points to review them, but I'm not like, don't you know that like an asteroid could hit the planet at any time? And it's like, well, yes, maybe. Anyway, perspective.
No, I think that's great, Fritz. I really appreciate that take because there are, like if we're talking about personal growth, like, one of the things I'm always fond of, or I say all the time, or used to, especially when I was in the prison, is like, if someone comes up and insults you, it's like the best feedback you can get, right? And if you can accept that feedback, like your world gets a lot easier, especially in a hostile situation. So, if someone's like, you're the biggest fucking asshole I've ever met, and you just go, oh, I can see that. Yeah, totally. 100%. Right. Like, it's sort of transformative, but it requires swallowing an ego pill, and that ego pill can be difficult. Like the first time I tried to swallow one, it felt like drinking wet cement. So it was not easy, but it's an easier pill to swallow. And after you swallow enough of them, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, well, of course this person thinks I'm an asshole because look at all the shit I'm doing right now. Like, look at what I just said. Look at the tone of my voice. Look at my expression. Whatever. Like, it makes sense why you think I'm being an asshole. So I get it. Sorry about that. And here's reasons. And hey, let's find some common ground. It gets like super easy, right? But in terms of the other stuff, it's like I love that idea of like you should put it on a shelf, right? Like you shouldn't just ignore shit. You just go, I'm just gonna be Pollyanna and just like nothing bad can ever happen to me, right? Because like that's a recipe for fucking disaster, right? But that's what people do when they drive their car. They just go, I'm a careful driver. I put my seatbelt on, and it's like, but the first time they hit an ice patch or someone slams on their brakes or they have to do an emergency maneuver, they're in the ditch and they're dead. And you're just like, well, maybe you should have prepared for some of the other shit rather than just being a Pollyanna. Like when someone said, hey, you might consider taking a defensive driving class thing. I don't need that. I've been driving 20 years. I'm fine. I've never been in an accident, blah, blah, blah. But they're the one, you see the video where they're just like, shit's just happening right in front of them. And they're just like, guess I'm just going to drive right into that. Like there's nothing I can do here except run into this fucking disaster that everybody on camera can see from a mile away. They're like, you didn't see that car go flying past you, start skidding sideways, and then do like a hard right or a hard left into the barrier and then start spinning around. And you didn't think to like maybe slow down or maybe get over, or you just went, oh my God, something different is happening. Boom. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, like keep it on the shelf. Some of it you have to think about. But I think the hard part is like discerning, like building a fallout shelter for a coming nuclear apocalypse And then sitting in the corner, like Robin said, with a rifle is probably not the best way to live your life, especially if you're sitting there eating Twinkies and ding dongs in your bomb shelter, because you're going to die of a heart attack in there and no one's going to be able to get to you, right? But, but just ignoring the possibility of something like, well, societies do collapse. Like once every few hundred years, you might run into something like that, or once every dozen years, depending on where you are. So yeah, maybe it's a good idea. Natural disasters happen. Like it doesn't mean you got to store like 6 years of food and in a bunker, but it's a good idea to have some spare water and extra medicine laying around. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I love that take though, Fritz. That was pretty cool.
We're on fire today. We are already. I just saw like that it's already 10 minutes over. Like I was like, wow, like that flew by today. Like I loved our conversation, man.
Yeah,
thank you
so
much, Fritz, for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you, Fritz.
And I'm going to have to radically accept the capacity limits of my bladder here shortly. So.
All right. On that note,
it creeps up on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, great conversation. I love having you guys. All our crowd of fans, and yeah, we'll do it every weekend.
Johnny, spot on. Yeah,
aiming to have some guests on, and then good perspectives, good deep conversation. I like the deep conversations we have, and then Bitcoin. I still know fixes all this. And
TikTok next block.
TikTok next block.
Run a node. Run a node.
Run a node, and massive breaking news. It will moon.
Yeah.
So.
Johnny, it's great to see you as always, sir. Thanks for joining.
Thanks all. We'll cut it off. Bye.
Bye-bye.